Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting by Jordan's art teacher. Jordan Daniels is a fifth grade student at Carver Elementary. I've had the pleasure of teaching her for the past year and a half. I chose Jordan because she's extremely creative, determined, passionate, and always asking how she can continue her love for art outside of school. Jordan has made tremendous growth and consistently works hard every week in art class. Jordan is always eager to learn a new technique and is not afraid to step outside her comfort zone to try something new. Jordan has an amazing personality. I'm very lucky to have been given the opportunity to be her elementary school art teacher. I'm proud of her hard work this school year and the young lady she's becoming. Well, my goodness, we're so proud of you. We wanted to have you here tonight and tell you how proud we are of you and have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our invocation tonight from St. Eugene Catholic Church, we're going to hear from Deacon John Class. No? Who are we hearing from?
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening.
I'm Edward Keegan. I'm the representative for the Wendell Council of Churches for St. Eugene.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Mayor.
Thank you.
And honored commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to lead you in prayer. Let us pray. Loving Father, you are the provider of all heavenly understanding and the one capable guide to paths that lead to joy and fulfillment. Give us discernment to check and correct our own understanding and put away all unhelpful thoughts that may lead us astray. Make our hearts more sensitive to your guiding hand so that we can sense, understand, and appreciate your working in our lives. Help us fully yield to your guidance, that our paths may always be straight. Amen. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into our, public comment period. The public can participate in the public comment period in the following ways. You can sign up for public comment on the night of the meeting at the podium by the door. You have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via the town clerk, to the town clerk via email by the Friday before the board meeting before 5 p.m. Please include your name and address for the record. And comments timely received will be read to the record for the length of 3 minutes. I also want to give you a little reminder tonight that in our public comment period, you're addressing the board as a whole and not individual members of the board. And we act as a whole and not as individuals. And any applause or outbursts of any kind are not permitted during public comment. And this is your one and only warning of that. So the first person we have signed up is Edie Now.
Mayor, I apologize because mine is directed to one person, Phil T. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to be a Wendell Commissioner, for trying to make a difference even when you stood alone. Thank you for all the times that you stood up for the people and for listening to them regarding planned growth with the right intentions and goals. We appreciate your concern for what people believe to be best for Wendell, which is a balanced growth. We thank you.
Next one is Regina Harmon.
Good evening. My name is Regina Harmon. I live at 6616 Tails Branch Road. I am addressing the entire board. I just want to remind this board that when you're financially involved with people on the board, as well as people that bring something to the board to vote on, you're required to step away from that vote. And tonight, we have something coming up under public hearing number 5D with property for Mr. Lucius Jones. You know, I've got several commissioners on this board as a group. One of them's a lobbyist who, yes, he's involved with the Bulls and Bears Investment Group together with Lucius Jones and other people on this board. He's a lobbyist for the ABC board, which Lucius Jones sits as president of the ABC
Ms.
board.
Harmon, you're addressing individuals on the board. I know I let the thanks go, but
You know,
you're-
well, I
you're-
mean, it's
you're
my
over the
right to
edge.
bring things up in order to let the community and the public know about things like this. Because if we're not bringing things up to address issues and concerns of the involvement with the board and people that bring things before the board, how are we supposed to get them to adhere to the code of ethics and the rules that, you know, they're supposed to stand for? Because if we don't bring it up, Madam Mayor, then they're going to continue just to vote the way they want, and nobody's going to be aware of these things. And, you know, it should be our right to be able to do that. And there's so many things that several people on this board are involved in with this individual, and they should literally step away from this vote tonight. And I think it's my right and, you know, to be able to share this based on your own code of ethics, where it states in there that if a citizen knows something, they should speak up. Well, I'm a citizen, and I know something, and I'm trying to speak up. Now, I've used up most of my minutes being able to do this with you, and I am more than happy to address it again in the public hearing, so I'll have more time. But I'd like to regain my minutes and finish, please, Madam Mayor.
You just need to generalize your statements and not be specific about a certain board member, please.
Okay, I will try to do so. I'm regaining my minutes now. All right, so several people on this board are in the Bulls and Bears Investment Group, along with the individual that is bringing this thing up, 5D public hearing. Not only are they involved with that, they go to lunch with them a lot of times, and they work out of the individual's office, Lucius Jones's office. They just recently went to a ECU game and a Boone game, all of them together up in Boone. I mean, together. I mean, we don't know if these people are discussing town business when they're together like that. They were at a birthday party for him. I could go on and on. I have another board member, which I'm not allowed to state who he is, but he's also in the Bulls and Bears Investment Group with them. He's also going to the ECU games and all that together with them. We do not know if these individuals are discussing town business when you have 3 of our commissioners together in any given location. And this has just gotten out of hand over the past few years. People need to know what is going on. You can't just keep doing this and not having repercussions in our community like we're having right now. I have said over and over again, I want growth. I just want quality growth. And when we're doing what we're doing, it just seems like these commissioners are doing things as a whole. Well, maybe not as whole, because there's 5 of you up there. A lot of these commissioners are doing it for maybe not the betterment of our community is a good way to put it. But there's so many things that several of these commissioners are involved in with this individual that's bringing this stuff up. And I would think legally, this would be considered pay for play. And something needs to be done about it, and they really need to step away from this vote tonight. And they know who they are. Thank you very much.
Time's up. Caitlin Gooch.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Caitlin Gooch. My address is 6400 Nightdale Eagle Rock Road, Wendell, North Carolina. I'm the founder of Saddle Up and Read that's located here in Wendell. For those that don't know, I just wanted to say I've been chasing sheep all day because my fence fell down, and last night when I was just sitting out in the yard, I saw a fox run across the yard. So I would love if the board and other citizens would talk more about maybe endangered species that are here. I used to hear owls all the time. I don't hear owls anymore. I don't know where the owls live now. We used to see bald eagle sightings like here and there. I haven't seen that in a long time. With all the development, it's rare to see a fox out, so that was pretty interesting. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, anyone in the community that would like to help organize teen nights on our farm, I'm opening up that as a space to do so, somewhere for teens to come and hang out. I don't know if y'all heard about the news at Southeast Raleigh. That was really, really sad. Things that are happening in high school, things that are happening with teenagers in general. So anybody that's watching, if you would please reach out to us, Saddle Up and Read on Facebook, or you can reach out to my personal Facebook. My name is Caitlin Ann Gooch. I would absolutely love to have some help just doing fun stuff on the farm, get the kids out the house. I love being outdoors, and maybe not all kids like being outdoors, but I do think that we all need more fresh air. So thank you. Y'all have a pleasant night.
Thank you. It's very generous of you. There's an owl in my yard. It lives in my yard. There is. I hear it every night. It's kind of cool.
Madam Mayor, there's an owl that lives behind my house too, out in Wendell.
Oh, really? Well, I'm sure
Caitlin, they're
mine
still
is cool.
around.
Yeah, they're around. Yeah, me too. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor? We'll move into section 4, our recognitions, reports, and presentations. And the first is item 4A, the recognition of Carver Elementary School staff member, Ms. Carrie Rivera. If she could come up here. Ms. Rivera has been an elementary art teacher in Wake County for 11 years. We have been fortunate enough to have her at Carver as our art teacher for the last 2 years. She has served as a cultural arts advisor each year that she's taught. Because of her efforts, our Carver Cubs have opportunities to learn about other cultures through fun and engaging cultural art assemblies. Ms. Rivera is an excellent teacher to all of our students at our school. She believes all students deserve a rigorous and meaningful art education, and she strives to deliver that each day. Ms. Rivera's goal is to provide opportunities for students to function as artists rather than simply learners of the arts. She also regularly collaborates with her colleagues to integrate learning from other disciplines. She fosters artistic creativity, responsibility, self-discipline, and learning daily while holding high expectations of all of our students. She promotes our students' artistic achievements by displaying art in the school, having annual family engagement art shows, and partnering with local businesses to offer students an authentic audience for families and community members to view their artwork. Ms. Rivera goes above and beyond to serve in our school and help wherever she's needed. She's on the school leadership team and has shown strong leadership skills throughout the school. Ms. Rivera understands the importance of building positive relationships across our school community. We proudly boast that we have the best art teacher in all of Wake County. Ms. Rivera is very deserving of this recognition. We wanted to have you here and thank you for everything you do for our kids in Wendell at Carver Elementary School. That's high praise, and we're very proud of you and proud to have you in Wendell.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 4B is a presentation of the Town of Wendell Fiscal Year 2023 Audit Report by Petway Mills and Pearson, PA. Garrett Johnson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
members of the board. As the mayor stated, we have our external auditor, Ms. Phyllis Pearson of Petway Mills and Pearson, to present to you the summary of the fiscal year 2023 audit. Annual audit for the town, again, is conducted by Petway Mills and Pearson. Prior to the meeting here tonight, the audit committee met with Ms. Phyllis to discuss the details of the audit, which you've all been provided a copy of this evening. Ms. Phyllis will present the report, and it will be made available to the public online tomorrow.
Okay.
So with that, I'll turn it over to you, and then the arrow right there to proceed. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening. During our audit, we conducted procedures to verify financial statement amounts, and we also conducted programmatic audits. We issued, as a result of our testing, an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, an unmodified opinion on the financial statements for an audit conducted under government auditing standards, an unmodified or clean opinion related to each major federal program and the internal control over compliance in accordance with uniform guidance, and an unmodified opinion on each major state program and internal control over compliance in accordance with the state's Single Audit Implementation Act. The statement of net position, which is a full accrual basis statement, the total assets were $40,585,000. Total deferred outflows, $4 million. Total liabilities, $19,633,000. Total deferred inflows, $2.2 million. Total net assets, $17 million. The statement of activities, the total charges for services was $3.2 million. Total operating grants, $2.7 million. Total general revenues was $11.5 million. Total expenditures, $12.9 million, and the change in net position, $4.6 million. The general fund, the total assets was $20,685,000. Total liabilities, $4,164,000. Total deferred inflows was $77,000. Total fund balances were $16.4 million. Unassigned fund balance was a little over $11 million. This meets the expectations of the state of North Carolina as far as maintaining an adequate unassigned fund balance. The budget was amended as needed. It was properly approved by the council, and in reviewing the actual expenditures and comparing them to the budget, we did not have any variances. The budget was very well maintained. The major property acquisitions, additions to capital assets were $11,880,000. Your annual depreciation charge was $683,000. The remaining commitments for construction projects are $2.2 million. The debt, you had principal payments of $1,340,000. The additions to debt this year were $385,000. This related to releases, subscriptions, and compensated absences. You did not have any new bank-related debt. The results of our audit, you had no changes in accounting policies. The most significant policies that the town has and disclosures that are included in the financial statements are the capital assets and long-term debt notes. There are no changes in the application of accounting estimates. There was no disagreements with management during the audit, and the representation letter was signed timely. We had one finding related to the filing of the data collection form with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. This finding resulted due to the complexity of federal reporting requirements. This was your second, well, last year was your first year, and this is your second year with having significant federal dollars and having this requirement. One other cause was the town's decentralization of grant reporting data, and we have recommended that that be consolidated and the accounting department maybe be a little more involved in obtaining that documentation. And then we'd like to note that all opinions related to programmatic activities were unmodified, which is a clean opinion, even though you had a finding. And that's our audit, and we thank you for having us do it one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone from the board have a question? It was very nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 4C is a proclamation thanking Commissioner Philip Tarnaski for his service for the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners. Whereas Philip Tarnaski has served the Town of Wendell as Commissioner from 2019 through 2023, and whereas Philip Tarnaski has put forth substantial effort toward improving the quality of life for the citizens of the Town of Wendell, and whereas Philip Tarnaski has supported the town board in the adoption of the Town of Wendell Strategic Plan, opening of a new town hall, and the betterment of working conditions and benefits for town employees, among many other initiatives that have benefited the community. And whereas Philip Tarnaski has served unselfishly in his capacity for the good of the Town of Wendell, making sacrifices in personal and family ties, now therefore be it resolved by Mayor Virginia Gray and the Wendell Board of Commissioners that Philip Tarnaski is hereby officially commended on behalf of the citizens of Wendell for valuable service rendered on to the town of Wendell, duly proclaimed this the 27th day of November, 2023, in regular session, and signed by me. So, you're welcome. We'll move into our public hearings now. Item 5A is an evidentiary hearing on a special use permit 2305 request by Lena Fidiani, and I may have messed that up, and Hannah Alexander to allow a meeting facility indoor event venue at 7 East 3rd Street, PIN number 17837900806. Ms. Griffin. Excuse me? Yes. So the first thing we need to do is hear from the town attorney about the rules of evidentiary hearing guidelines, and then the clerk is going to swear in anyone who's going to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. As you and the board know, this is referred to as a quasi-judicial hearing or a due process hearing. The difference between this and the typical legislative rezoning is that certain procedural rules apply. They are that witnesses are sworn, testimony is given under oath. The applicant and the parties are entitled to an impartial decision maker. There's an opportunity for cross-examination in these types of cases. Certain types of evidence in these cases has to come from persons with credentials or persons who would be recognized by a court as experts. For example, testimony about property valuation or engineering matters. The evidence in these cases must be competent, substantial, and material. In sum, put your judicial robes on, you sit as judges in these types of cases instead of legislators.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, anyone who wishes to offer testimony in this needs to be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right.
Good evening. As you said, this is an evidentiary hearing for a special use permit located at 7 East 3rd Street. The applicants, Lena Fitiani and Hannah Alexander, are here. They have requested a special use permit to allow for meeting facility indoor event venue. And the subject property is zone DMX, and that is a special use permit in the DMX district. There you see the definition for meeting facility indoor event venue, which is an indoor commercial or nonprofit facility for event venues or public assembly, including but not limited to conference facilities, convention centers, indoor event space, auditoriums, exhibition halls, and the like. The application states that this building will be used for kids' activities and birthdays and includes programming for children ages 1 to 7 with an appropriate play area. The use that's proposed for the building, this building has been vacant for decades and does not have water and sewer service currently. The applicant would be required to extend water and sewer services to the building in order to occupy it. Staff would classify again the use of the building to be meeting facility indoor event venue. Section 3.3 of the UDO lists some additional standards which are that it's permitted as a common plan of development but not as infill development. This is, however, an existing building with no expansion plan, so that does not trigger that requirement. The proposed business is adjacent to a parcel that recently received a special use permit for recreation facilities indoor in August. To date, that use has not been established in that building. That block of 3rd Street has primarily retail and service uses with an existing nail salon and thrift store on the block. There's also a retail running shoe store that's going in and a coffee shop that's under development on that block. For the special use criteria, there is an evaluation and approval that's governed by quasi-judicial proceedings that are based upon sworn testimony and evidence relevant to the following standards: that the proposed use does not adversely affect the general plans for the physical development of the town as embodied by the ordinance or any plan or portion thereof adopted by the Board of Commissioners. The proposed use will not be contrary to the purposes stated in the UDO. The proposed use will not adversely affect the health and safety of residents and workers in the town. The proposed use will not be detrimental to the use or development of adjacent properties or other neighborhood uses. The proposed use will not be affected adversely by existing uses. The proposed use will be placed on a lot of sufficient size to satisfy the space requirements of the use. The proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or hazard because of the number of persons who will attend or use the facility, vehicular movement, noise, or fume generation, or any type of physical activity. The standards set forth for each particular use or project for which a permit may be granted have been met. The board may impose or require such additional restrictions and conditions as may be necessary to protect health and safety and to protect the value and use of the property in the general neighborhood. The proposed use shall be subject to the minimum area, setback, and other location requirements in the UDO for the zoning district that it's located in. And the proposed use shall be subject to the off-street parking and service requirements for regulations. Again, the DMX district is where this parcel is located. You see the map there on the right-hand side of your screen. And it's a special use permit in this district. Like most downtown properties, this business would utilize public parking lots and on-street parking located within the downtown. There are 2 municipal lots within a couple of blocks of the proposed use. For utilities, the building, again, would have to connect to municipal water and sewer. Blueprint Wendell 2030 classifies this area as downtown core, which lists commercial uses such as retail and restaurants and event spaces as appropriate uses in the area. The applicant did have a neighborhood meeting on November 10th. No one attended that meeting. The Town of Wendell planning staff does a staff analysis, as you know, but does not make a recommendation on special use permits. There you see the notification requirements and when letters were sent out and the newspaper ads were run. We would ask, if you make a motion to grant the special use permit, that you add conditions that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or maintained, and that the building must be connected to municipal water and sewer. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and the applicants are here as well to speak.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, would the applicant like to be heard?
You can speak for however long. You come on. Just introduce yourself and give your address as well.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Alexander. I live in 10014 Thoughtful Spotway. That's in Raleigh, North Carolina, 27614. We just started exploring the town of Wendell, and we love it. Just want to thank you all guys for taking the time and allowing us to present our business that we're very passionate about. I'm myself a teacher, former teacher. I have a Bachelor in Art, I have a Diploma in Child Care Studies, and I have several certificates in child development, which I utilize throughout my career teaching little ones. I came from a business background. I had 2 of my own businesses which serve the same purpose. So I'm very confident, very excited about running a business here that will serve the kids and the families of Wendell. Just a brief description of the business. I know Stacy was great. She explained everything, so I'm skipping a lot. Just want to tell you that it is not just a play area for the kids or a birthday venue. So it is a business that really focused on stimulate and improve children's physical and intellectual, emotional development. As we're going to have, we're planning to run instructor-led activities, which will target different development areas. I'm sure, Madam, you can relate since you're a teacher. So we're going to have a focal point in that center where we have a gym area where children can come and play and, just gain some strength, which will help them throughout everyday task. And then on the other side, we'll have a designated area for hands-on instructor-led activities where we'll target their fine motor skills and cognitive skills. So it is very well planned, and we're very, very excited to be part of this community and reach out to as many families. We are very impressed with the rapid development here at Wendell, which actually makes it looks a very healthy place to start kids' place where we can serve the community and be part of it. We are actually promised to adhere to all regulations of fire safety, building to code, and capacity, and the water and sewer, of course. We're planning to hire professionals to draw the blueprints and have licensed contractors to come and do the water after, of course, we get the permit. And I really appreciate all of you. I know I speak too fast. I work with kids, so that's what I do for a living. But thank you so much, all of you, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board for the applicant? Okay.
Not for the applicant, Madam Mayor. I have one for staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've heard that this building is not usable for a long time, as it said in the application. Us saying the condition number 2 of the approval, because my immediate question was where the bathrooms, if we don't have water and sewer, where the bathrooms, so all of that is built into condition number 2?
Correct.
Okay.
Condition 1 and 2, because they would have to have appropriate facilities for the use under building code as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right,
Madam Mayor, I move we grant the special use permit.
close the public hearing. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and now, go.
Madam Mayor, I move we grant the special use permit and include the conditions 1 and 2.
All right, we have a motion to grant the building, where is, I got this here. You state it again, please, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong page.
Move we grant the special use permit, including items or conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant the special use permit with the inclusion of conditions 1 and 2. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all very much. Item 5B is a public hearing on a land use plan amendment, LUPA 23-01 to Blueprint Wendell 2030, future land use map to change the place type designations for roughly 595 acres to implement the Wake County Economic Development Site Identification Study. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. This item before you, as the mayor said, is a public hearing on Land Use Plan Amendment 2301 to the Blueprint Wendell 2030 future land use map to change the place type designations for roughly 595 acres to implement the Wake County Economic Development Site Identification Study and also a variety of our town adopted plans. The Town of Wendell Planning Department is requesting this land use plan amendment for those roughly 595 acres in 3 geographic locations, and we'll go over each of those. Blueprint Wendell 2030, the town's comprehensive plan, was adopted in April 2022 by the Board of Commissioners. The document does assign a place type to each parcel within the town's jurisdiction and urban service area. Those place types outline such things as the allowed density and type of development desired for the parcel. The proposed land use plan amendment requests a place type change for roughly those 595 acres in our urban service area in our ETJ. In mid-2022, Wake County Economic Development, in partnership with Creative Economic Development Consulting, launched the Site ID study to identify priority industrial sites in each Wake County municipality. The Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina currently only lists 9 available industrial sites in Wake County, which is not very many. and Wake County Economic Development receives roughly about 45 requests each year for these sites. Having sites ready and available for what the industrial developers are looking for is key. And so they decided to do a deeper inventory to find quality industrial sites to attract business and foster retention and expansion for each of the Wake County municipalities, such as Wendell. Wendell staff did work with the consultants to create a preliminary list of sites, which were then more deeply vetted by the consultant. The consultant, Wake County Economic Development, and town staff worked to finalize those potential site inventory and create a prioritization. This request includes 3 areas within the town's urban service area. Urban service areas are future growth areas based on our annexation agreements with neighboring communities and utility service boundaries with Raleigh Public Utilities. The town also, for some background information, has an adopted water allocation policy. We have an economic development strategic plan, and of course, the comp plan blueprint Wendell 2030 that all set priorities for the community related to tax base, job creation, land use patterns. Implementing the policies and plans are directly related to the proposed land use plan amendment to designate roughly those 595 acres to either employment and/or innovation districts. The town of Wendell has an adopted water allocation policy that contains a goal of achieving a tax base of 60% residential and 40% commercial industrial. Wendell's historical development pattern has been predominantly residential, leading to a current tax base of approximately 80% residential, 20% commercial industrial. Our economic development strategic plan also identifies a variety of priorities related to job creation and employment within the town and has those following goals. Strategic Plan Goal 2.1, work to grow and locate companies in Wendell to create jobs. Identify future mixed-use business park locations suitable for attracting companies. Create a site readiness matrix to help prepare sites for development. Create a program of site building identification and development to be prospect ready. The following Blueprint 2030 goals are directly related to the land use plan amendment being proposed. Related under economy, market, and economic development goals, support development of key nodes, whether they're big or small, where commercial uses can offer the most benefit. Diversify the local economy and increase employment opportunities in Wendell. Execute the economic development strategy outlined in the 2020 Wendell Economic Strategic Plan. Create space, land, and buildings to meet varied demands. Focus on job creation. Strengthen partnerships with businesses, institution, and neighboring jurisdiction. Reduce retail leakage and increase spending on businesses here, and provide more options to live and work in Wendell. And the land use plan amendment is the first step in helping create that job creation and working on all of these goals that have been identified in all of our adopted plans. The Wake County Economic Development Site ID Study identified 4 areas to be considered for economic development sites. The first one we've kind of implemented. The first one was the Oppadin site, what we commonly call Wendell Commerce Center, which is right at the intersection of Rollsville Road, I-87, and Wendell Boulevard. It's roughly 257 acres. It was approved in November 2022 as a planned unit development that consisted of a mixed-use development near Wake Tech, includes a variety of industrial, retail, and multifamily housing. This site was chosen due to nearby development, transportation, rail access, and water and sewer extensions. The same reasons that mixed-use development got submitted to the town and approved. Currently, the project has infrastructure drawings in review by the town of Wendell and our technical review committee. The report did identify 3 additional sites, and they are included in this proposed land use plan amendment and are listed below. I'm going to go over each site. If you have questions, feel free on each site, and we can go over those. Site 1 is roughly 300 acres, located at the northwest quadrant of I-87 and Knightdale Boulevard between Rollsville Road and Keith's Road, which is also the boundary between Knightdale and Wendell's future jurisdictions through our annexation boundary agreement. The site includes Puryear Road as the northern boundary and Wendell Boulevard or Knightdale Boulevard, depending on what you like to call it. I always choose to call it Wendell Boulevard. That's the southern boundary as well as I-87. The 300-acre area would be a joint development with Knightdale, as everything west of Keith's Road is identified in one of their site locations. So it has an opportunity to be much larger than the 300 acres here, and is probably one of the larger sites still available for large-scale economic development. The site ID study did include the Glennon project. However, staff did not include that as mixed-use development's already been approved and under construction, which that project includes retail, multifamily, and townhomes is underway. The current land use within that 300 acres is farm, forestry, and low-density residential. Municipal water and sewer are currently under construction to serve the Glennon project at the intersection of I-87 and Rollsville Road. Municipal water and sewer also currently serve East Wake High School, and then a regional natural gas line runs along Keith's Road and is sized to handle large usage customers in the future. The natural gas line runs from the Rollsville area down to Garner through this portion of future Wendell and Knightdale. The site access to I-87 and Wendell Boulevard and having a Wake Tech campus for job training and educational opportunities makes this site very attractive for non-residential development. Currently, the 300 acres is currently classified with a variety of place types. The area in the southern portion located along Wendell Boulevard is classified as Activity Center 1, which includes a list of retail, restaurant, service, office, and civic uses, in addition to a variety of residential. The parcels along Rollsville Road and Puryear Road in the northern portion are classified as low-density estate and medium residential 1, which allows for single-family detached residential. Planning staff is recommending the 300-acre site be classified as innovation. Innovation district includes a wide variety of non-residential uses such as light industrial, research and development, flex space, office, educational facilities, and then breweries, lodging, retail, personal services. The innovation district does state that portions of this place type may be suitable for residential uses such as live, work, and multifamily type units. It's key to note in a lot of these mixed uses, the residential would be complement the non-residential so that people could live and work in the same kind of large mixed-use development. Wendell Boulevard corridor will have a future transit service connecting Knightdale and Wake Tech campus in 2025. Having jobs and non-residential uses within a transit corridor is important to providing connectivity for residents and potential employees. So you can see here's an innovation district. They're really meant to be those creative spaces for the future. When you think about innovation districts, you think about job creation, tech companies, also flex space, makers space, office. They also include things when you think of like a loading dock project in Raleigh that may have those types of uses as well as restaurants and breweries mixed in. And so Innovation District gives that flexibility for that true mixed-use development. Any questions on Site 1 at this point? Site 2. Site 2 sits between I-87 and downtown Wendell along Business Route 64 and is roughly 264 acres. Planning staff at this time is recommending 72 acres be included in the proposed land use plan amendment around Lyles Dean Road. Staff has not included the additional acreage to the west towards Buffalo Creek as the area provides a buffer along Buffalo Creek with it in its current agricultural use and active farming. The 72-acre site is directly across from Chart House Drive, which is a small-scale industrial park that contains a variety of businesses today. The area to the south of the site contains Carver Elementary School and 2 sites that have been approved for residential single-family development. The Wendell Boulevard corridor in this area provides a variety of land uses from restaurant, retail, Food Lion Shopping Center, and scattered residential, as well as some agricultural uses. Municipal water is within the area along Lyles Dean Road and Wendell Boulevard. Municipal sewer is along Chart House Drive and within the Food Lion Shopping Center. The 72 acres are currently classified with the place type of residential 2, which allows for a mix of residential units with a density of 4 to 8 units per acre. The residential type lists single-family attached and detached, including townhomes. Nearby classifications include Downtown Fringe, Activity Center 2, which is where Food Lion and Hardee's in that general area, and then also industrial along Chart House Drive. Staff is recommending a place type classification of employment for the 72 acres. Employment centers contain a mix of uses including office, light industrial, and institutional. They also incorporate some retail, recreation, and residential units to create a live, work, and play environment. As you can see here, employment does allow for a wide variety of uses to get that mixed use. It does allow office, corporate headquarter, light industrial, which includes research, development, manufacturing, but also includes restaurants, personal services, and then multifamily condos as well. Site 3 sits between I-87 and NC-97 along Lizard Lick Road. Site 3 within the site ID study includes roughly 188 acres north and south of I-87. Staff at this time is including the area south of I-87 to NC-97 as the parcels north of I-87 include some floodplain and have challenges with access. Planning staff is recommending roughly 223 acres for the proposed land use plan amendment. The 223 acres are currently not within the Blueprint Wendell 2030 classification, as it is classified as a water supply watershed as part of the Zebulon municipal water system. The Zebulon plant is no longer processing drinking water, and the land flows south of future Little River Reservoir and Dam, while the utilities has stated that this area is not part of the future Little River water supply watershed, and that municipal water and sewer could be provided in this area. The interchange there at Lizard Lick in 64 is a major gateway into Wendell. Currently, municipal water is along NC-97 at the southern border of the 223 acres. Municipal sewer is currently not available. However, two approved residential developments, the Ammons and Marshburn Manor just to the south of this, will be constructing water and sewer much closer to this 223 acres. Currently, the intersection of NC-97 and Lizard Lick kind of serves as an activity center currently with a mix of retail and non-residential uses. Blueprint Wendell 2030 has a variety of classifications near the intersection, south. We have an activity center 2, which allows for a wide variety of retail and office type uses. The southeast quadrant is classified as industrial. And then there's further residential 1 to the south, which is for the Ammons and Marshburn Manor subdivisions, which have been approved to have up to 2,200 housing units. Having additional non-residential development to serve these future residents, as well as the potential in creating services and jobs for the region, is important. Planning staff is recommending the 223-acre site be classified as innovation. As I mentioned earlier, innovation does include a variety of non-residential uses such as light industrial, research and development, flex space, office, education facilities, and then some retail, lodging, and personal service. And there's the description of an innovation district again. Statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. Any recommended change to the Blueprint Wendell 2030 map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent with the comp plan and is not reasonable in nature. The proposed land use plan amendment is consistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030 as it fulfills a variety of goals. I probably had to stop short of all the goals it could implement, but the ones listed under growth management, centers of activity, economy, market, and economic development, and connectivity are all key in these mixed-use nodes, and job creation is a goal in many of our documents and has been for many decades. And so this land use plan amendment helps assist a lot of goals in quite a few of our plans. We are recommending that the land use plan amendment is consistent with the Wendell Comprehensive Plan, Blueprint Wendell 2030, and could be considered reasonable since it fulfills a wide variety of goals in the comp plan and economic strategic plan and other documents. Planning board action at their September 18th, 2023 meeting, the planning board voted 6-1 on the motion to recommending approval of the land use plan amendment with the removal of 44.9 acres from Site 1 along Rollsville Road. And you can see how the planning board members voted. And I can field any questions you may have. There we go. And is a public hearing.
Yeah, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board?
Have those 44 acres been removed on site one, did you say? Where were they at?
Staff is, our recommendation is keeping it the same, just recommending all 595 acres. Planning Board recommended approval minus 44.9 acres from the 595 acres.
The residents didn't say anything complaining about it or anything?
You will see in public comment, there will be some comments. But, so you have two recommendations, staff and Planning Board, and you as a town board get to make that final decision.
Anything else from the board at this time? All right. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak tonight on the public hearing?
Good evening, folks.
Good evening. Give me your name and address.
John Narron, 210 South Selma Road, Wendell. I'm an attorney with Smith, Debney in Raleigh, and I represent Lee Weathers Garrett, who owns the 44.9 acres that you just asked about. Ms. Garrett's here. Will you stand up, Lee? We appeared before the Planning Board back in September, as you heard, and we told the Planning Board that Lee has a contract to sell her 44.9 acres that was signed back in April of this year. She had no idea, nor did the buyer of the property have any idea that this action was taking place. But when they came to the town to begin the rezoning process, they were told that this would be in the way and that we needed to wait until this process was completed to decide whether the land use plan amendment was approved. So she's been waiting since April. Unfortunately, the buyer's been willing to extend the contract, and so we're still in contract with the 44.9 acres. When we went to the Planning Board, the property in this quadrant that Lee's property is in was described as 386 acres. Tonight, I've seen it described as 386 acres, and then later as 300 acres. So I'm not clear what it is. If you want to look at the Planning Board agenda, it described it as 386 acres. But either way, if it's 300 acres and you take Lee's 44-acre tract out, you got 266 acres left to mix with the Knightdale tract so that this becomes a viable industrial tract. I know y'all heard him say that this tract is designed to be merged with the Knightdale tract so that you'll have a much bigger tract for industrial commercial development when you put the two together. So if you pull out the 44.9 acres and allow Lee to take advantage of the contract that she has, then you'd still have 240-something acres to add to the Knightdale tract. If, on the other hand, if it's 386 acres and you pull out 44 acres and you've still got 342 acres of Wendell land to mix with the Knightdale land, I know y'all know all that, but I just want to point out that pulling out the 44.9 acres is not a major change to what has been planned. I'm sure y'all have all looked at the maps, but this 44.9 acres is at the top right-hand corner of the quadrant that's being proposed to be changed, and it would be what I think would be the northeastern corner, right at the intersection of Pure Year Road and Roseville Road. But it would still leave the balance of the tract very developable for industrial purposes or commercial purposes or whatever the land use plan allows for. So we're here tonight to ask you to follow the recommendation of the Planning Board, which voted 6-1 to approve this, but to exclude the 44.9 acres from the plan. And we think that was the right decision, given the equities of the situation and the fact that Ms. Garrett has a contract, and we would ask y'all to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Take questions if anybody has them.
Any questions? Okay, anyone else like to speak? All right, any other questions from the board? Can we talk a minute about the discrepancy in the acreage that was just brought up? Can you clear that up?
I can. The Wake County Site ID report has different acreage than the town of Wendell planning staff's recommendation. We removed the Glennon property, which is 50 acres. We also removed those residential subdivisions between Area 1 and East Wake High School, as we thought redeveloping those would be very challenging. So it is 300 acres. The Wake County report does have different acres because we made some modifications based on, at the time, they did not know the Glennon project was going to be under construction. We did, so we modified it. That site, because they're building retail, townhomes, and multifamily, that's not going to be redeveloped anytime soon. So we removed that from like some parcels. So the Wake County report shows the 386, or roughly that. Ours shows the 300 based on what's currently built on some of those neighboring properties.
I remember you saying that, yeah. Okay.
Brian, would you mind just on the map there for me, just to kind of maybe trace out the 44 acres that Mr. Nairn was referring to?
Yeah, it's right here. It's this parcel. Can you see the red pointer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's this 44.9 right here. Yep.
All right, any other questions from the board? Do you have a question? Okay.
Quick question. So, just thinking ahead a little bit, if the 44.9 is removed, it's under contract. I mean, what does that mean down the road? If it sells the property?
So currently that whole area is not within our jurisdiction. So if there's development proposed that includes water and sewer connections, a rezoning would have to be submitted in annexation to the town of Wendell, and a proposed development plan will come back to you all on that parcel. If it stays residential right now, it's residential 1, which is 2 to 4 units or low-density estate residential, and those any development plans would come to us, as there is water within 1,000 feet probably from the East Wake High School. So you would see a development plan. If it changes to innovation, any development plans would either could be consistent or inconsistent with the comp plan, and you still have that decision as a town board.
Let me ask Commissioner Deloach's question, I think, a different way. If we make the motion, so my intention is make the motion to adopt the planning board recommendation. If we go through that process and 6 months down the road, Ms. Garrett's seller or buyer decides she no longer wants to be a part of it, is there a way for us to get that property into this in the future?
Yeah, we can do a land use plan amendment at any time, staff initiated, if the circumstances change on the property and there is no residential development proposal, we certainly would recommend those 44.9 to be classified as innovation at that time.
Anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt the planning board's recommendation on the economic development land use plan amendment.
And we have a motion to adopt the planning board's recommendation on the land use plan amendment. Is there any discussion from the board? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item 5C is a public hearing to rezone .67 acre portion of property located at 2500 Wendell Boulevard from rural agricultural to rural residential zoning. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. This is a public hearing to rezone the roughly .67 acre portion of a property. The address is 2500 Wendell Boulevard. The frontage for this parcel is Lyles Dean Road. Just for clarification, the proposal for the zoning is to change from rural agricultural to rural residential. Mr. Phipps is requesting to rezone the roughly .67 acre portion of his property located off Lyles Dean Road from rural agricultural to rural residential to allow for the development of one single-family home that will connect to town water. Water service is available along Lyles Dean Road. There is no public sewer at this time within a reasonable distance. Wake County has approved a septic system for this parcel. The applicant will need to submit an annexation petition. It will come back to you for annexation. Property is currently located in the town's ETJ. If approved, the applicant plans to subdivide this portion of his property and submit annexation for petition. Parcel is located at 2500 Wendell Boulevard with the PIN referenced. Everything in that turquoise is the 0.67 acres. That is part of what you just recommended to be going to employment classification. Mr. Phipps had this submitted a few months ago, and so we've been processing it, not knowing how the land use plan amendment would work out, but I'll get to my slide where it's still reasonable to allow this rezoning. The rezoning around this whole area is RA. Town policy is if a water line is at the property, if anything is constructed, you must connect to that water. And so to build a home on this property, they do need to connect to city water, which requires annexation. RA zoning requires a minimum 1 acre. Connecting to city water allows for a smaller lot size, so that's what the applicant is requesting. Minimum lot size for RR is 25,000 square feet. The applicant is meeting that and meeting all the site dimensions, setback dimensions as well. There are no buffer requirements between RR and RA zoning. They're both low-density, single-family residential. Blueprint, until your last motion, did classify this as medium residential 2. It is now Innovation District. And we have mentioned this on the slide throughout the process that the land use plan amendment's been proposed to create an employment area. Medium residential 2 does allow for a mix of residential type. The applicant's intent is to create a single-family home for a family member. Any recommended changes to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent. The rezoning, if approved, is inconsistent with the comp plan as it's very low density and not within the 4 to 8. However, it is considered reasonable as it allows for a family member to reside in the neighborhood where there are other family members, and it's reasonable to create a lot for that home site. The applicant did hold the neighborhood meeting on September 27th. The meeting minutes are included in your attachments. Even though the proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the comp plan, it can be considered reasonable as it fulfills one of the goals of the comp plan. And the applicant is required to connect to municipal water along Lyles Dean Road. Any connection to municipal services does require annexation. At the Planning Board October 16th, 2023 meeting, the Planning Board voted 6-0 in the motion to recommend approval of the rezoning. And I can field any questions. Mr. Phipps is here as well if you have any questions for the applicant.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board? Do you have any questions from Mr. Phipps?
I have one question for Mr. Phipps and a comment, Madam Mayor. Mr. Phipps, how long has your family owned the property we're talking about?
Come up to the podium, Mr. Phipps. Kurt. Give me your name and address, please.
My name is Curtis Phipps. Live at 515 Lyles Dean Road. Our family has owned it for 160 years.
Thank you, sir.
It is listed in the Centennial Farm program with the State Department of Agriculture.
Madam Mayor, I draw at that point, Mr. Phipps wants to build a house for a family member on a farm that's been in the family for 160 years. And our process and the way that our stuff was written initially created some barriers. It honestly created some confusion for me on what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. I want to applaud Mr. Phipps because I know that this process has been going on almost a year now, and he's patiently worked through every portion of the process and consistently asked to improve help us improve our process while he was fixing what he was working on. So I just appreciate the way he's gone about this process. And Madam Mayor, I move that we grant the.
Let's hold on a minute. So is there anyone else here that would like to speak about this in the public hearing tonight? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and now you can go.
Move we grant the rezoning request.
All right, we have a motion to accept the rezoning request. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, item 5D is a public hearing to rezone approximately 1.6 acres located at 0 Martin Street from residential 4 to neighborhood center. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. As the mayor mentioned, this is a public hearing to approximately 1.06 acres located at 0 Martin Street from residential 4 to neighborhood center. Property owner, Mr. Lucius Jones, is requesting to rezone 1.06 acres located on Martin Street from residential 4 to neighborhood center. The intent is to allow for the development of townhomes, which are not allowed in the R4 zoning district. In order to build townhomes in the neighborhood center zoning district outside of a conditional district, and conditional districts have a site plan attached with them, and traditionally for townhomes will have a condition that they're a permitted use. A special use permit is required. The applicant plans to submit a special use permit that will be heard by the town board at a future date once it's submitted. A reduced site plan is required as part of that special use permit process. Staff will review the reduced site plan for compliance with the UDO before a hearing is held. The properties are located at 0 Martin Street and can be identified by the 2 pins referenced on the slide. The 2 parcels are here in blue. Access is Martin Street. To the west is the town tennis courts. To the south is single-family residential. To the east is single-family residential. And to the north, there is a rail line. As I said, the current zoning is R4. The surrounding properties are either zoned R3 and R4. The abutting properties to the south, as I mentioned, are single-family. The town park is to the west. The request is for neighborhood center. The neighborhood center district is coded to provide areas for residential and mixed-use development in close proximity to existing and planned neighborhood centers. In this case, the neighborhood center is the downtown core. The intent is to create higher density residential areas that complement commercial districts with physical proximity and pedestrian connectivity. Different housing types and lot styles are encouraged. Development in this district should encourage pedestrian use through connections to adjacent neighborhoods and the construction of mixed-use buildings. If approved, all of the permitted uses in the neighborhood center district would be allowed on these properties since this is a general rezoning. The neighborhood center land use chart has been added as an attachment. Townhomes in the town of Wendell, UDO, are classified as dwelling multifamily, which requires an SUP outside of a conditional district. For your reference, there are lot dimensions and setbacks for townhomes. We also included the setbacks and requirements for single-family homes. The applicant could either build single-family homes on the property or townhomes, and those are the different dimensions. When an SUP is applied for that includes a reduced site plan, staff will review that to verify it meets the UDO requirements for buffers, for setbacks, and driveway widths, and all of our criteria in the UDO. Buffers, a type B buffer is required where the properties abut any existing single-family residential use. If there are townhomes as the applicant intends, that type B buffer is required. A type C buffer is required between neighborhood center when it abuts R4, only in the case of development of multifamily and non-residential uses, which shall provide a buffer between less intense adjacent uses. In this case, townhomes are multifamily, and the town park is considered a less intensive use, which would require a type C buffer along that western border. UDO does require open space, 1,000 square feet of open space to be dedicated per townhome. For single-family homes, it's 1,750 square feet. Blueprint Wendell does classify this area as a downtown fringe. Townhomes are listed as an appropriate use in the downtown fringe. It is a walkable location to the downtown core and to town park and other town core amenities. Any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent with the comp plan and is not reasonable in nature. This rezoning, if approved, is consistent with the downtown fringe place type in Blueprint Wendell 2030 since townhomes are listed as an appropriate use and could be considered reasonable as it assists with the goal neighborhood and housing, diversify housing to appeal to different groups, age, income, lifestyle preference, and family situation. And also downtown goal D21, consider opportunities to diversify the uses, including residential. neighborhood meeting. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting on September 18th, 2023. The meeting notice and notes are included in the attachment. Staff comment, since the proposed rezoning is consistent with the comp plan and can be considered reasonable since it fulfills one of the goals of the comp plan noted above. At their October 16th, 2023 meeting, the planning board voted 6-0 on the motion to recommend approval of the rezoning. I can field any questions that you have. The applicant is here as well.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board for staff? Okay. Does the applicant want to be heard? I guess not. Does the applicant want to be heard? Do you want to speak? You're good? Okay. Okay. Give me your name and address.
Lucius Jones at 410 Selma Road. I was raised and born on 110 Selma Road, so I've just moved down the road 2 or 3 times. So I've been here 81 years so far. And for the lady who was doing a little character assassination on me earlier, I started here 66 years ago as being a member of the town board. I served 20 years on the board and as mayor. I just want her to know a little something about my record. I was on the planning board for 4 years. I was a chairman. I was a mayor for 14 years. I was on the board for 6 years. I was national president of the Home Builders Association, Housing Finance Agency, a national president. I served 20 years in the Centennial Authority. I served 20 years on the Fire Commission, and I have felt like I've served under 4 different governors and been appointed to various boards by them. So I think my integrity might stand up under a little scrutiny here, which I think you heard tonight. But anyway, we've owned this property for over 40 years. I've been paying city taxes on it, happily. But anyway, we feel like it's time to develop it. We've asking for this because we want to find out about the zoning before I go spend $20,000 on a set of plans. So that's why I'm here. And used to, a long time ago, and this was some time ago, we always got the zoning done and then did the planning, because it's hard to plan something when you don't know what set of rules you're working with. And by getting it zoned, then I know what the rules are. And we got to go by the UDO, and everything's got to be approved by the planning department. So I'm not here to try to circumvent any system. I just want to be able to know when I spend my money that we're going to have a chance to getting it constructed. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant about the project?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, Mr. Jones, you addressed my concern, and that was my concern with this earlier, was that the rezoning, breaking the continuity with the rezoning to change it to something different when we don't have anything of what's going to be going there was my biggest concern. I don't have a problem, Deans, you can roll your eyes. I don't have a problem with the townhomes being here, because I do like the purpose for that too. I just like seeing a plan for what we're going to rezone it for. I can see you as a business person standpoint along with kind of what we're looking at too. But that was my only concern. So thank you for addressing that.
Well, if it gets rezoned, we will be back with a plan that will meet the UDO, and the city has a chance at that time to decide if they like it or not. But at least I won't spend all that money knowing that it's not even rezoned, you know. So.
One question, if it is townhouses, is there going to be extra parking?
Yes, sir. I promise you we'll satisfy your parking needs.
He likes parking.
I know.
Every one of them has a little thing.
Have a celebration.
I've known him since he was that high.
Lots of celebrations.
He likes that. He likes native trees. We got all that stuff.
Any questions from anyone, I'll be happy to try to answer them. I've built a lot of stuff in Wendell I'm very proud of. I know that I've done apartments, and we've done some senior housing But you know, I've never built a single thing in this town that I'm not proud of. And I'm proud to say that I've been building here a long time. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak about this project? Give me your name and address, please, ma'am.
Regina Harmon, 6616 Tails Branch Road. Mr. Jones, if you felt I was assassinating you earlier, I want to personally apologize. This has nothing to do with you or the fact that you have property in our community and you want to develop it. I want you to develop it. I want you to do a good job for our community. This is about the board and, you know, the fact that their financial and personal involvement with you should require them to step away from the vote. That is all I'm saying. Because of your involvement with so many people on this board, that they should not be able to vote on anything that has to do with projects that you're affiliated with personally, partially, partners with people or anything like that because of their financial and personal involvement with you. With that being said, this is not after you whatsoever. You know, I've spoken to you many times. We've had pleasant conversation. This is not about you. This is about the board, and this is about, the lawyer looking into the rules that we have, our town manager, our mayor, and holding this board accountable for what should be done properly. Because if we have all this and it's not held accountable, or they're not held accountable, then why bother? I mean, we just let everybody come up here and do whatever they want. And, from an individual standpoint, I have said from day one, every time I come up here, I want growth. I just want growth done in a very good way where we take care of our infrastructure, we get parking in all these new developments that we're getting, which we don't have in a lot of places, that the water and sewer is handled to the capability that it can be handled. I could sit here and go on, but this is not a character assassination against Mr. Jones that has lived here for, 81 years? Okay, 81 years, and he only moved 3 doors down. This is not about that at all. This is about the fact that, you put these rules, you put these code of ethics, you put your UDO in place, and all of that, and if you're not going to hold things accountable to that, then why do we even bother? And that is it. Thank you very much. And Mr. Jones, I'm going to personally apologize to you again if you thought that I was character assassinating you, because I was not. This has nothing to do with your whatever. This is about the rules and this board and doing what is legally right. Thank you.
Mr. Cawley, can we talk a minute about recusal from voting? Since it's come up, so everyone will understand.
Yes, ma'am. Part of my role is to review and weigh in on potential conflicts. And I have reviewed the allegations by the speaker, and what I heard was an investment group, lunch, a shared office, attendance at a football game, and socializing. And none of those, none of those items would create a disqualifying conflict of interest under the statutes.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak about this project? All right, are there any additional questions from the board?
Happy to make a motion when you're ready for it.
Okay, let's close the public hearing and have a motion. Yeah.
I move that we approve the rezoning of approximately 1.06 acres, 0 Martin Street, from residential 4 to neighborhood center.
All right, we have a motion to approve the rezoning from residential 4 to neighborhood center. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Did you, how'd you vote? Aye. Thank you very much. All right, item 6A, Going to move into our administrative items now. Is a request for temporary street closure for the Wendell Wonderland on Friday, December 1st. Good evening, Mr. Pulaski. Is it supposed to rain?
Yes, ma'am. We're not discussing that, though.
Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned it.
I'm here seeking, to request for temporary street closure for December the 1st, for downtown streets listed. The Town of Wendell will host the 2023 Wendell Wonderland event on Friday, December the 1st, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. The special event necessitates the closure of Main, Cypress, and 3rd Streets at approximately 2 p.m. So that we can start getting the stage and the vendors set up for that event. Excuse me. Also, that we're asking for the Women's Club parking lot to be closed at 6 a.m. that morning to ensure that there are no vehicles on that lot. All streets will be reopened by 11 o'clock at the latest. Usually we get streets opened as they need to be. 11 would be the latest, though. The event includes live performances throughout downtown, Santa and Mrs. Claus at the Town Square, the Lake Myra Light Show at the Women's Club lot, axe throwing, trolley rides, open businesses, food trucks, a craft market, and Toys for Tots drive. The safety of those attending the event necessitates the temporary closure of the public streets to minimize conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians. Staff is requesting the following temporary street closures would be Cypress Street between 3rd and 2nd Street, 3rd Street between Cypress and Pine, Main Street between 4th and 2nd Street, and the Women's Club parking lot. We did hear someone in the past mention having accessible parking. So this year, accessible parking has been added to where we have allowed golf cart parking in the past. That lot's never really filled up with golf carts, so we will have someone there checking golf carts and handicap placards.
Yeah, I noticed that on the map. And
Yes.
I actually made a note to thank y'all for taking care of that. Thank you.
Let's see, camping on, and that parking will be on camping there at the corner of Main. Lost my spot. Let's see, additionally, Tobacco Alley, Camping Street, and Depot will be closed for the event under staff authority. Business owners will be notified in advance of the event closure, and also attached in your packet was the event map.
Are y'all gonna put a sign up so that the handicap
Yes.
is very apparent from
Yep.
Cypress, maybe even? Okay, thank you. All right,
Madam Mayor, may we approve the temporary street closure?
we have a motion to approve the temporary street closures. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Should we have amended that motion to include a rain date? That just occurred to me.
A rain date would be hard on an event this size. We could possibly scale something down, but the problem is
No worries then.
Santa's booked,
I'm just
food
covering the
trucks,
bases. That's fine.
vendors.
I understand. We'll just go out there and light the tree up.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, item 6B is the approval for the Wendell Brownfield Program Task Order 6, Phase 1 Environmental Site Assessment, Asbestos and Lead-Based Paint Survey, and initial United States Department of Housing and Urban Development Environmental Review Services. Mr. Garner.
Thank you and good evening. So this is Task Order 6 under the Winfield Brownfield Program for Geosyntec, who is our environmental brownfield consultant and the administrator of our EPA Brownfield Grant. The information obtained in the Phase 1 and through the environmental review process will be useful for the engineers and consultants that we have hired to do the Pleasant Grove redevelopment project. And under that task order includes property eligibility determinations, document acquisition and review, records review, historical subject property usage, subject property reconnaissance and on-site interviews, preparation of the Phase 1 ESA, and the development of an AAI, or an all appropriate inquiries checklist for EPA. It also provides for the survey of the building for asbestos and containing materials, or ACM, lead-based paint, or LBP, survey of the building, which is the former Carver School and Pleasant Grove redevelopment project. Task Task 3 on Task Order 6 provides for services in order to perform an environmental review for the administration of the town's HUD, or Housing and Urban Development Community Project Fund grant, which is a separate grant from the EPA Brownfields grant. And once approved, this will be a component of the requirements to expend federal funds during the construction phase of the project. As you may recall, You previously approved a task order that allows for them to perform phase ones. This is separate from that because we thought it would be nice to have it all project-specific for Pleasant Grove, which includes the sort of higher level of screening required for the expenditure of HUD funds, which GeoSyntech can do under our current master service agreement. Task Order 6 is currently budgeted with a not-to-exceed amount of $38,194. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about Task Order 6 or the Brownfield program or the Pleasant Grove project.
Madam Mayor, just to clarify that the Community Project Fund grant is the federal appropriation from Congresswoman Ross.
Yes.
I'd just say real quick, just from a experience perspective, the sooner that we can tell the State Historic Preservation Office that this environmental, I know that they're going to handle the actual steps, but the faster they know about it, the faster they can go ahead and figure out what they're going to tell us. Because, I mean, the building's been at least listed on the study list as eligible for the National Register. We know that's going to be a component of this. Hopefully we do everything perfect, but even if we don't, then they can give us the guidelines or mitigation things that we need to know the sooner we tell them about it. So that's, I would just say they never mind an informal warning that a submission's coming and they've got a ton. There's a lot of work going on in the state right now, especially federally funded stuff that triggers these kind of requirements.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons why the task order is presented tonight, even though the work may not be done for some time pending plans and processes. If we can get started on those processes that have a longer sort of time component, we can.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the task order and authorize the manager or his designee to sign same.
All right, we have a motion to approve the task order and authorize the town manager or his designee to sign. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item 6C is a decision to annex and rezone approximately 31.12 acres at 0 and 1217 Eagle Rock Road from rural residential to neighborhood center conditional district to create the Eagle Rock Townhomes. Ms. Griffin.
Good evening. Again, this public hearing was held on November 13th with a motion to table the decision until tonight to give the applicant some time to make some revisions to the plan. They, this is the plan that you saw 2 weeks ago. There was an inquiry about a north-south road connecting the two bottom roads. It did come back in. This is the amended plan with a north-south road added. They did retain 150 lots, as was shown during the public hearing. They did add one condition of note that this is intended to be a for-sale community, so they did add a zoning condition as well.
All right.
The applicant's engineer is here as well.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Is there any extra parking?
Not from last time, no, sir. It's, there is some extra on-street parking, but it's the same as you saw 2 weeks ago.
Same number, not 150 spots, but just a few.
Yes, sir.
Can they speak to kind of what changed? Because last week there wasn't much hope for this. I was kind of curious to
Yes, sir.
where they found the additional land.
Patty Harrell Hilburn with McKim Creed Engineers, 1730 Varsity Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. Good afternoon. So your question is how we found the room? Well, we're impacting some of the wetlands there, as you can see, and we've just basically condensed where we could in other areas to be able to, at first we lost 6 lots and we were able to find areas that we could, you know, compact, if you will, meeting the requirements of the UDO. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other questions?
So I'll just have a comment off that, and it doesn't, not looking for a response, but I mean, again, this is kind of what I said last week where I heard again from both of the people were speaking that this was a good fit for the space, and I have to disagree with that one, just because I can't feel like that when we're impacting wetlands and we're squeezing things around, that anything's really good fit. As I kind of jokingly said with my wife last week, I said, you know, you can put me in a size 30 pair of pants, but it's not a good fit. I mean, we can make it work, but it's not pretty. And so I think in this kind of situation, it's that same kind of thing where we're trying to make it work, we're trying to make it fit. I don't think it's a good fit. I don't think that, I don't really like the way that we're told that, you know, we're asking for exceptions and rules when there was space to be found from the get-go that was found when we asked. So I find that a little bit disingenuous. For me, this is not a good fit. I don't think it's in a area like we heard with Mr. Jones, is where townhomes seem appropriate. This seems inappropriate, and again, impacting wetlands and the area in this part of the town and our jurisdiction doesn't seem correct at all. So that's my viewpoint.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry, we have, there's not a public hearing to close.
We're just talking.
I appreciate Commissioner Lutz's comments. I would also say that I think this is a good spot. I think that we're going to, Zero Eagle Rock Road has been the #1 space for, we've seen that address a lot. There's development similar to this coming around it. The other pieces, I know what this will do for Central Baptist Church and their ability to move and grow. I think that this is a solid fit. I appreciate that we've gotten the connectivity in. That was a concern last time. I appreciate, I don't need you to get it right every time. I do need you not to get mad at me when we call you on it, and I need you to fix it afterwards. So as long as you're willing to work with me, I'm certainly willing to work with you. And Madam Mayor, whenever you're prepared, I have a motion to approve the annexation and rezoning request and then make a motion to adopt the attached ordinance.
All right, we have a motion to approve the annexation and rezoning request and adopt the ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I'll say real quick, I appreciate the willingness to improve the project. I know that we pushed it out with the intent of the discussion, and I just appreciate the willingness to make that happen, so.
More parking would be nice.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay, 3 to 2. All right, item 6D is a downtown improvement grant.
Sorry, good evening again. This is, as you've seen before, the Downtown Improvement Grant, which would be a new, but also just a recombination grant program between the facade grant and the building upfit grant. It still seeks to encourage the preservation of Wendell's small-town charm and historic character by giving tenants and building owners access to no-cost capital for facade improvements and other structural building improvements, such as multi-story activations and the creation of new restaurants, which are both goals of the town. The program combines and replaces the former programs, as I've said, and the program continues to identify eligible uses and criteria to meet the policy goals of the program by dividing the award amount into tiers to ensure that funds scale with policy implementation. So the more positive outcomes for downtown, the higher the funding consideration from the town. The tiers were adjusted by staff following the presentation to reflect board discussion, and as with all policies, the board retains the right to vary a policy even after adoption or adjust funding based on its discretion. So just a couple slides. Again, just as an overview, this combines the two former grant programs and establishes tiers of funding based on a unified scoring matrix, which encourages higher investment by offering higher incentives for more substantial work, but also keeping a program available for smaller projects. You have before you a list of the eligible uses in totality, which combines most of the uses from the former facade grant, as well as the improvements related to the creation of new commercial kitchens and restaurants from the building upfit grant. And there was a comment last time about the multi-story activation, so there's some specific clarification on that line that includes are necessary for residential habitation or increased occupancy, and mentions specifically structural improvements as well. As mentioned, there are tier designations, so 4 tiers, starting with Tier 1, which is $2,000 maximum, or 50% of the project cost, whichever is lesser. That would apply to all the tiers. Tier 2, $5,000. Tier 3, $10,000, which is double our current program, and $50,000 for those large projects or restaurant creation projects, which is in accordance with what our current building upgrade grant currently has. To the right is the downtown improvement grant scoring matrix. So this would be used on every submission, restaurant, paint, constructing a second floor of a building that doesn't have one. All of it would be graded on the same scale so that they can be compared objectively to each other, which removes a lot of the subjectivity in the process. I'm happy to answer questions about either of these things before I move on to the next slide.
Any questions from the board? Okay, keep moving.
At a presentation of this program to the Downtown Development Committee, there were some comments and discussion on past and current processes as far as approval. So we've provided here sort of 3 alternatives to meet that standard. So there's concern that the process may take a long time. So as a alternative number 1, we can follow the same process but allow projects to be started or completed by the applicant prior to being approved by this board. Staff does not recommend this alternative. Allowing applicants to expend funds and develop expectation of reimbursement creates legal risk for the town. The alternative also does not meet the sort of if not for or but for funding the project would occur standard, which is generally the standard in economic development incentives in North Carolina. Funding projects that are already in place also creates the policy question of whether or not public funding was necessary at all to the project's successful completion. Alternative number 2 is sort of a compromise between 1 and 3, changes the process to allow for administrative approval for all or some of the funding tiers. So staff supports an alternative that allows for staff review and approval of applications for Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects, so the $2,000 and $5,000 levels, and Tier 3 and 4 applications still requiring the full process of Downtown Development Committee recommendation and Town Board of Commissioner approval. This alternative would allow for timely response for less intense projects that don't typically require permits and site plans, while allowing for policy review by board approvals concurrent with permitting processes. As the third alternative is sort of a stay as it is require work to wait for board approval to commence, which leaves no doubt that the proposed work is in accordance with your will. So I'm happy to take your input on this and incorporate it into the draft that you should have in your packet, or incorporate any other comments or additions you may have to the policy.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
In practice, do we have we had feedback that the process takes too long?
We have had feedback that the process may take too long.
Seems to, may, but in actual practice, have we taken too long?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
There are situations in which you may apply for a grant after a board meeting, after a Downtown Development Committee meeting has been canceled for the month. So in the following month, you would be heard, and then 2 weeks after that, you may be heard by the town board, which gives about a month and a half of time where you don't know if your project would be approved. I would say that most projects of the nature that this board is looking for in redevelopment take significantly longer than a month and a half to plan. So that may not be an issue for most projects.
I understand on paper, it would seem, man, this could take a while, may take a while, and that's why I ask in actual practice. I think, I'll speak for myself. I feel like I'm okay with the way it is unless we have continuous examples that we take too long.
I was going to ask, does it actually take, my understanding or my memory is that typically they submit their receipts, the work's already been done, we're reimbursing them on the back end after they've been, so.
The actual financial reimbursement is just a submission of receipts. I think Commissioner Deloach is asking about how long it takes for approval initially.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So what I would say is that this is the taking of public funds, and it's giving it to a private interest to improve property that they own. And I understand that we have some clawbacks in there, and I certainly think this is a good program. I don't see where we can use a timeline justification for $5,000 or less. I don't see where $5,000 is going to be the make or break, the decision maker on whether someone does this project. And if they can't wait a month and a half to get before this board, I'm fine with not giving them public dollars.
And I'll send them to see Mr. Phipps. Talk about patience.
So am I hearing
I
that?
like 3.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I like.
And I think this has already been pointed out, but I would concur with the legal problem identified with alternative 1.
Yeah, do we need like numbers?
Do you have everything you need?
Yes, if you could just make in your motion to adopt the,
Alternative number 3.
yes.
Okay, can someone make that motion?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. I move we approve the creation of a downtown improvement grant which replaces the current building upfit grant and downtown facade grants with the inclusion of alternative number 3, require the work wait for board approval to commence.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the creation of the new downtown improvement grant, replacing the current building upfit grant and downtown facade grant policies to include alternative number 3, requiring the work to wait for board approval to commence. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. And our last item tonight is item 6E, decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign a contract for the RFQ for downtown Wendell Streetscape project.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. I don't think I've been up here enough this evening, so one last go at it. As mentioned, we're looking for a motion to accept the recommended rankings for streetscape design services for the downtown Wendell Streetscape project and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign a contract with Withers Ravenel. Town of Wendell released a request for qualifications, otherwise known as a RFQ, from interested firms for design services for the downtown Wendell Streetscape project. The RFQ was issued on September 8th. 7 firms submitted proposals to the attached RFQ, which was in your packet, by 2 p.m. on Friday, October 6th. The downtown Wendell Streetscape project will include a full streetscape redesign, including sidewalks, trees, planters, streetlights, street design, site furnishings, public art, seating areas, and also include ADA compliance. The submittals were reviewed by a selection committee consisting of 5 members of town staff from administration and planning. Initial selection committee reviews resulted in the invitation of 3 firms, Withers Ravenel, McGill, and Kimley Horn. And we asked them to provide a project presentation and participate in discussion and question session in early November. The funding for the design services is appropriated in the budget in the amount of $200,000. After the interviews, Withers Ravenel was the top-ranked design company, with McGill and Kimley Horn following. The project is expected to be completed in the fiscal year 2025. To complete the design work, staff recommends that the board accept the ranking of the firms by the selection committee and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract with Withers Ravenel. If for some reason we cannot negotiate a contract with Withers Ravenel, we would go to the number 2 firm, which is McGill. I can field any questions that you have.
All right, any questions from the board? Comments?
One little one, well, I think it's a big one, but I'm really excited about this project. Glad that this is happening. This is going to be, as it gets into the construction phase, it's going to be a really sensitive project just because of where it is. It's literally the front porch of Wendell, and we're going to be digging it up and making it a whole lot better, but just really conscious of the pressure time in between while this work's going on. And I'm sure that it is part of what goes into some level of design, but I hope that if there are things that can happen during the design step to make the construction step as easy as it can be, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be plenty of pains along the way, but as much as that whether that's designed for staging or what, of different phases along the way, or if it's that it all needs to happen at once, because that's the best. I don't know, but I just, as much as they can consider that and the design work would be helpful.
Yeah, one of our questions for the interview for the 3 firms that we interviewed was phasing of the project and what your early recommended phasing would look like. And also, is it scalable to other parts of the downtown? And taking into construction schedules related to holiday functions. I mean, we need to be mindful of things like Harvest Festival, Wendell Wonderland, events that are large community events that we need to make sure construction schedule is well aware of those. So we brought some of those concerns up during the interview with all 3 firms. So.
And I'd add maybe to that list, maintaining some sort of physical access to the buildings. I want to make sure that the businesses,
If
I
I
want
could-
us to not have to have businesses closed for even a week, but, you know, that's,
If I can add, I've been through a large streetscape.
We do scrape it first.
Man,
get
sorry.
Paul's granddaddy
I
to
haven't-
bring us the wide plow that
I
made
haven't
it.
used my mouth much tonight. Yeah, so two takeaways. It's really just one. Communication is critical when you get to implementation. In the past, I've seen construction companies actually bring in an outside communication firm that specializes in that exact concern. So 100% agree.
That's
That-
worth it
that-
from my perspective as
yeah.
one little piece of this big project.
Yeah, so this doesn't get us to construction design, but the construction design to construction implementation on the streetscape, that communication with the property owners and business operators downtown is a tremendous part of that, not just executing on construction.
And just one thing to add, we are well aware that there will be a large-scale public input for this process. Whether you've lived in Wendell 81 years or 8 months, people are very excited for our downtown and love it. So we know residents, business owners, groups, everyone's going to want to comment on what that future design looks like. So this is going to be a very heavily involved public engagement process for this project.
That's good.
And at the risk of having scared anybody, really high-level timeline that we're not committing to, at least is that design work, according to this, is not supposed to be done until fiscal year 2025, which is a whole year away plus from now, right?
Yes,
So
we are
this
taking-
work's not going to happen in 2024. We're making sure we have a really good plan before we do that.
Yes, we are going to heavily involve the public in engagement early on, middle of the project, end of the design, and then come back to you for future recommendations for CIP and other kind of funding opportunities for that design.
I don't know about me, but you'll come back to somebody. Madam Mayor, I got a motion to accept the recommendations for ranking of the streetscape and design services for the downtown Wendell streetscape and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign the contract with Withers and Ravenel.
We have a motion to accept the recommended rankings for the streetscape design services for the downtown Wendell streetscape and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign a contract with Withers and Ravenel. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, we'll move into our other business. The first is our updates on board committees with town board members, Capital Area or Campo, Commissioner Eatman.
We had a Campo meeting, weeks are running together, I guess that was 2 weeks ago, Mayor. Had some regular updates around transit and LAP projects and the big future draft 2055 municipal, or MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So to the last point I made on the last item, there's a lot of long-range planning happening around all these projects. They don't show up out of thin air and break ground the next day. So please engage on the far front end on the conversations around future planning. We've covered a lot of that tonight and appreciate everybody's engagement being here.
All right, Central Pine Regional Council, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was actually not enough participation for a quorum, so they switched that meeting to an executive meeting that I was not a part of.
Now we'll do our comments. Start with Commissioner Joyner,
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz.
Just a couple things, Mayor. First, just want to kind of, I know next meeting we'll be busy, but I just wanted to also echo our proclamation earlier with thanks to Commissioner Tarnaski for his service over the past 4 years. And I know time given up with family and friends and other things is tough. So thank you for sitting up here and serving with me. It's been a pleasure. Also, we approved street closures. We had a new business we kind of welcomed in, I guess, unofficially today. And I know we're talking about our streetscapes and events and everything too. I still will kind of just harp on this, and you'll hear me say it 1,000 times between now and 2025, but parking downtown has got to be discussed and talked about probably before then even, because it's an issue and it's going to only get worse, and that's a good problem to have, but we've got to be able to talk about it prior to the streetscape plan. Because it is something that will be an issue. And I think with these larger places coming with attracting crowds and bringing in people, we want those people to have somewhere to go. And I think that's going to be vital for not just, keeping me quiet, but also the success of these businesses too.
Thank you. Commissioner Eatman?
Nothing else for me tonight, Mayor.
Commissioner Tornaski?
Good evening, Mayor and the Town of Wendell and Commissioners. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity of being the Commissioner for the last 4 years and voting for me, and want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do want to thank Commissioner Tarnaski. I've had the pleasure of sitting with him, gotten to know him on a more personal level, so thank you, sir, for your service to our town. I've enjoyed spending time with you here, so thank you. I just want to remind folks that tonight we did have multiple agenda items relating to our downtown, specifically improvements to our downtown, a new business coming to downtown. So, again, I'll speak for myself, but I think the board has shown we care about downtown, we care about protecting and improving downtown in a lot of different ways. So I hope to see everybody out, weather permitting, Friday night. So excited to have everybody down, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. I received a letter today from Capital Area Preservation, and they are looking to fill 6 soon opening terms of their Wake County Historic Preservation Commission, and they are very eager to build a Historic Preservation Commission drawing from all of the municipalities and unincorporated areas of Wake County. So they are seeking people who are interested in serving in that capacity. They want you, members shall have demonstrated special interest, experience, or education in history, architecture, or archaeology, or related fields like planning, real estate, architectural history, or preservation law. But it's not limited to that, so I think that it may just be something that you have tremendous interest in. You would be required to attend monthly commission meetings, I believe the second Tuesday of each month at 3:30 p.m. So if you're interested in that, I have the contact information. You can get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to pass that along. We would love to have someone from Wendell serving on that, if you're interested in that. The second thing was a reminder about Wendell Wonderland, and I'm hoping everyone will come down, help me light the Christmas tree Friday night, 6 o'clock. I'm going to hold out that it's not going to rain. It's just Monday. Things change between Monday and Friday all the time. So, and I also want to remind you that we're participating in Toys for Tots, and that's real special to me. And I hope that you'll consider bringing a toy unwrapped and leave it with, I believe the Marines will be there to accept those. And we also have places all over town. You may have seen them when you came in tonight, and at various locations around town where you can drop off a toy. So please do that, and you will make someone's holiday season very bright, and that is the whole point, isn't it? I wanted to mention that my appreciation for all the Christmas decorations in our new town hall. Every day I come in, there's more, and it's really nice. And I think staff's enjoying it, and it's nice to see. And the decorations around town are beautiful as well. So thank you. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate that. And then lastly, I wanted to offer my thanks to Commissioner Tarnaski. I really appreciate everything that he has done on behalf of the citizens of Wendell. He's very faithful, very willing to listen. He's always been here, and a hard worker on your behalf. And we appreciate anyone who's willing to serve on this board. It's not for the faint of heart. So thank you too, Phil, for your time on the town board, and enjoy this downtime now with your family and everyone. And I need a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Yeah, I saw it. He did.